Hi, this is the next installment on talking about the executive branch and all of the roles that he or she fills. What I would like you to do is to find the section of your notes that is a series of boxes. And what we're going to do is we're going to fill in those boxes with the different responsibilities and roles that the president has. This would be examples of implied powers. The notes that you had before were the delegated powers of the president. Remember that delegated means those powers that are written in the Constitution and he is constitutionally required to follow them. These are more on the implied state side of things, the idea that this is what we expect a president to do. So we're going to start with chief executive because his main role is to execute or enforce the laws. So the chief executive, as you can see by the star, is probably his top responsibility. He has to enforce the laws. There are over 2 million people that work for the federal government, and actually I think that number is a little outdated. I think it's actually over 3 million people. These are the tools that he has at his disposal. The first is that he has what are called executive orders. And these are rules that have the force of law, and we know we've been seeing executive orders fly left and right with President Trump as he started his administration. We know that he has the appointment power. I'm not sure you need to write that down again because we've talked about it so much, but he can appoint cabinet members, judges, ambassadors, and he also can remove them from their job. And we have seen both of those in action with President Trump. Two terms that you probably haven't had, a couple of terms, is the word impoundment. It's the refusal of a president to allow a federal department or agency to spend money that the Congress has budgeted. President Trump just recently did this with the National Park Service. He put a freeze on everything until he was sure that it was set up the way he wanted it to. My family was impacted by that because my son-in-law, John, could not go forward with his job until the freeze was lifted. This is a common thing to do. An impoundment is a common thing to do for a president coming into office. And then once they see that the budget is the way they want it, then they remove it. Pardons and reprieves and amnesty have to do with basically forgiveness of punishments. A reprieve is a postponement. So a lot of times you see those with people who are on death row, and the president might give him or her a postponement of the punishment. Let's say some last minute evidence came in. A pardon is a flat-out forgiveness. You are released from punishment. And amnesty is a group pardon where there were lots of people, for example, the Vietnam War memorials, the Vietnam War vets that draft dodgers that ran to Canada because they did not want to be drafted to Vietnam. And President Clinton gave them amnesty in that regard. And so we talked about these terms in the other section of delegated powers, so we won't spend a lot of time on that. After the chief executive, I would say that one of his other main roles is the commander-in-chief. Remember that Congress is the one that has the power to declare declare war, but it is the presidents that conduct military operations and strategies. And also the president has the ability to call out troops, for example, during Hurricane Katrina. And basically we believe in civilian control of the military. We don't believe that a military person should be in charge of the military because they could so easily take over a country. This is a delegated power. Okay? The president acts as head of state. And a head of state is basically that he is the chief executive and the two people that are intertwined. He represents our nation. He performs ceremonial roles. In a lot of countries, that's two distinct people. For example, in England, the Queen of England is seen as the head of state. She does all the ceremonial things. And then the British Prime Minister, who lives on Downing Street, he is the one that's in charge of the government. In our country, you have to do both. President Trump just recently said that he was frustrated with a lot of the ceremonial things that he is responsible for, when he really wanted to he really wanted it to kind of just be down in the dirt and deal with things. Um, The next one would be what I would call the chief administrator. The chief administrator is the person that's in charge of the federal government. He's responsible for all the federal departments, all the cabinet departments like the State Department and the independent agencies like NASA. Basically, he is the CEO of the largest corporation. An executive, but I want to really make a very distinction between the two roles. The chief executive carries out the laws that are passed out by the legislative branch. It is his responsibility that when a law is passed, that he carries it out. An administrator is in charge of the staffing of places, dealing with how to run a business. Are your people skilled? Do you have the right people in the right place? How about salaries? What about benefits? Think about the chief administrator as being the superintendent of a school district, personnel, salary, benefits. And the executive, it'd be the principal, because it's the principal's responsibility to carry out the curriculum responsibilities. And so the administrator is basically in charge of those 3 million people. Okay. All right, so let's talk about a chief diplomat. The chief diplomat is the one that really directs the foreign policy of the United States. He deals with struggles like where they conflict with each other. For example, the CIA, which deals with foreign, and the National Security Council deals with foreign, the Department of State deals with foreign entities, and all of them might conflict with each other. It is up to the president to give diplomatic recognition. And I think we've talked about this before, but diplomatic recognition is the acknowledgement that a particular country exists. Presidents are often required to make quick, decisive decisions, and sometimes without a lot of knowledge. You got to kind of fill in the blanks. And remember that he has the power to enter and sign treaties, but that's also done with the Senate's confirmation. Sorry. Chief legislator. Now, we have talked and retalked, and I've said this, but he outlines his proposals in the State of the Union address. And he has a lot of people that will help him write legislation. He's responsible for the budget, and he's responsible for the economic report. And when I say he, I mean the executive branch. So when you guys were doing your simulation, it was really important for you to, I hope, talk to Mr. Rang about whether he would even consider passing your bill. Because if the president doesn't think that it's important enough and isn't going to budget it, then your bill is dead in the water. Okay. Chief of the party. Chief of the party means that regardless, we are a partisan country. So right now, President Trump represents Republicans, conservative Republicans, liberal Republicans, and so on. And as Republicans come up for re-election, and there are already some states that are in highly contested congressional re-elections and governor re-elections, and some have invited President Trump to come and speak on their behalf, and some of them have not. And the same was true with President Obama. Some wanted President Obama there to help, and others did not. And so, regardless, he has that on his plate as well. And the last one is chief citizen. Chief citizen just basically means he is a living symbol of the United States. Regardless of whether you agree with the president's policy or not, if you travel overseas and you are in the jungles of Africa and you ask them, name an American, they're going to name their president. And some people have a real problem with that if you don't agree with the president's policy. But whether you go down to kindergarten class or into, like I said, the jungles of Africa, the president is a living symbol of the United States. And so when presidents mess up, have affairs, act inappropriately, do not accept gratitude. I remember President Obama just getting raked over the coals because one time he got off of the Air Force One and did not salute the Marine that was at the end of the platform. And the poor man was just crucified That's because of those kinds of things. It's like a president can't make a mistake or can't have an omission of understanding, or he is held to a higher standard because he is that living symbol. If a president doesn't have a flag, if he's not dressed appropriately, if his wife is in trouble or his kids get in trouble, and that the Bush twins got into trouble at college, um, that really reflects on the presidency, and we take that very seriously. So those are the roles of the president. Which ones do you think would take up the most of the greatest amount of the president's time? And which one do you think is the most important? We have argued for a lot of time, for a lot of years, of whether one person can do all of the things that we expect of the president. But our country is not willing to change the form of government and have a multi-president or go to a parliamentary form of democracy. We continue to expect a lot from the people that run and become president of the United States, and we don't accept failure or mistakes very readily. That is why for most people, I would not touch this job with a 10-foot pole. I would never want to have the responsibilities or the roles that would be expected of me because I was President of the United States. Thanks, and we'll talk to you later.